Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I am Brian Keith, and as with so many episodes, I have a confession, which is I suck at delegation. It first came to my awareness that I sucked at delegation back in 2013 when I first started hiring staff. And I discovered that, man, I tried, and I thought I was doing things smart, but I did not always get the right things to the right people at the right time. And a couple years later, I ended up letting all my contractors go, some dear friends of mine, because in retrospect, it's not that they were making mistakes, it's that I was not properly delegating. I was not giving them the right tools for the job. I was not giving them the right tasks. I was not giving them the right supervision. I just sucked at it. Now, in 8 years of being in business, I've gotten better at delegating, but what I still keep on seeing is that most of us do not have some inborn delegation gene. Most of us just aren't very good at delegating. And in today's episode of Redbeard Radio, we're going to talk with delegation expert Crystal Coleman about how you can suck less at delegating. Crystal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian, for having me.
Now, why are you qualified to tell us how to suck less at delegating?
Great question. I am a delegation queen. That is what I do. When I started my business as an online business manager, my husband, this was 10 years ago, my husband was amazed that I had made a job out of telling other people what to do. So the reason why I'm the expert is I come into a business and I take a look around at the business systems, the operations, what's going on, and I'm able to dissect the tasks that are on the owner's plate, on the team's plate, and I insert myself in the middle and make sure that everybody is able to complete their actual tasks. The right people are completing the actual tasks.
Love it. So tell me, what is the root cause of why I sucked at delegating back in 2013?
This might be hard to hear, but one of the biggest reasons is you probably think that you can do the tasks that are on your plate the best. We all suffer from it. It's a little bit of ego.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for so long, or we invented it, that no one else can possibly do it as well as we can. So we get kind of emotionally attached to them. That's the first thing. Admit that somebody else can do a repeatable, measurable task at the same level of quality as you can. When you get over that and realize that you are replaceable for those things.
Replaceable? I don't want to be replaceable. Except I sort of do, right? At least on the stuff that's not my mission, my purpose, the thing that I'm really good at.
My goal is to make everybody on the team replaceable, including the business owner. That gives you the freedom to take a vacation. I know some of you listening have never taken a vacation from your business, but that's where you want to be. And you can't get there until you're delegating properly.
So let's say everyone listening accepts your harsh words of truth that maybe we're not only not the best at everything, but maybe we don't want to be the best at everything. How can I go? And let's say I'm a business owner who has a couple of VAs, adding 5 or 10 hours a week to my systems. How can I get from the I'm currently doing everything or I'm directly involved in everything to actually delegating better? We have the problem of knowing what to delegate. We have the problem of having systems, both in terms of SOPs, but also technology. We have the problem of knowing who to delegate to. We have the problem of managing all of the delegated tasks. There's 4 problems and we have like 10 minutes. So would you please solve all of our problems? You can start on one of the 4. That's fine. We're not cruel around here, except your harsh words of truth.
So there's 2 things here, and I think that's people and systems. You need the right system in place to be able to gather everything together. I personally rely very heavily on project management software. As an OBM, as a certified OBM and project manager, to be able to gather everything into one place so that it can be tasked and tracked and managed properly. My favorites are ClickUp and Teamwork, but I know a lot of people use Asana, Trello, those types of things. Number 1, that's the first need, is to stop delegating and stop tracking tasks that are for your business inside of email. Because if it lives in somebody else's inbox, how do you know when it's completed? Unless you're going into their inbox.
How do you stop that? If you're an email-centric company when it comes to tasks, let's say you already have Asana or Teamwork or whatever, how do you get both yourself but also your team to stop it?
You hire me. No, so you hire somebody like me, seriously, to slap your hand.
Uh-huh.
It's about having a system in place that outlines what are your communication systems? How do we use this thing? Talking about task management, delegation, SOPs, they're all awesome, but they're no good to you if you're not actually doing them, following them. So if you have a project management system, one of the reasons why I like the ones that I recommended is because they have built-in robust communication within each task or at a higher level on a project, for example, space level. They integrate with things like customer service tools. So if you have customer service tickets coming into one system, you can create tickets for yourself automatically using automation for the appropriate members on the team to follow up. And that takes it out of an email inbox into a system where if Susie doesn't make it this week because there was a catastrophic failure in her town or something like that, then Erin can step into her place without having to go into her inbox.
Yeah, I use Asana, which is my favorite one for this particular process. And Asana has a tool where you can just forward an email, and based on who you CC, it'll assign it to that person in an Asana project. And so even at a very basic level, if you just say, hey, open an Asana account, which is free, and then start forwarding every task into Asana. So if someone on your team says, please do this, then you just forward it into Asana. And then in there, you can respond, I'm doing this here. Or what I'll do with clients who are not being good about not sending tasks through email is I'll just respond and say, tracking this at, and I'll have the URL of the task in Asana. And that way they can go there to look at updates. And if they're a follower there, they'll start getting updates from Asana. But just saying, tracking this at, anywhere you send me a task, that's nice. I'm tracking this at, and then the Asana URL.
Exactly. And same with my clients that I'm working with, have multiple teams. When I start working with a team, I tell them, this is how we're going to communicate about this type of task. And if an email comes into me, I'll say, great, thanks for heads up. I'll respond on the task. It's about training, and it's about all of us developing the habit.
It's so interesting about habits. There's this habit a lot of us have where, well, the few habits. One is if it needs to be done right, I'll just do it. Another one is if it needs to be done fast, I'll just do it. And we use these two metrics, these two rules all the time to avoid looking at why did we get to a place where I had to do it in order to have it be done right? Or why did we get to a place where if it needs to be done, I have to do it? Where sometimes what that really means is it's not that you didn't delegate right, it's that you did not give enough time, that you said, we're going to do this project, we're going to do it in 4 days. Where if you only asked your team, how long do we need for this project in order for you all to do your roles? So all I'm doing is either nothing or I'm doing a final review. And if they tell you we need 30 days, and then you say, great, we're doing it in 4 days, you just signed up to go not be able to delegate tasks or to be grumpy if you do delegate tasks. And your team is going to be grumpy. And I see this so often that we just say, yeah, 4-day thing, or it's a 30-day project. And I'll say to my team, okay, I want this in 4 days from now. And then everyone's scrambling again.
Absolutely. And what you just described is the communication problem that I really think is at the core of all business problems. Is you come up with a fantastic idea and the vision, and this is what we're going to do. But if you don't have the skill set or the desire to slow down and do it, you need somebody on the team to break it down first into all of the measurable action steps that get you to that goal, what that idea, the vision, actually getting it implemented. That's what has to go into the project management system. It may be needed broken down into several milestones. Who knows how big it is? And then I always default to the rule, and I'm very, very stringent on it. I will not delegate to somebody on a team a task that needs to be completed in less than 24 hours. The notable exceptions to that are customer service. That somebody is checking customer service, for example, a default would be twice a day, that somebody's in there and responding to customer service emails, for example, twice a day. They may need to take action right now. But what I'm talking about is I'm going to be delivering a webinar and I need a PDF. I'm not assigning the designer the PDF to design tonight when I'm going to be on the webinar tomorrow. You're opening yourself up to mistakes.
Now, but this sounds obvious, and yet people keep on doing it. If it's so darn obvious, which everyone knows, if you say to someone, hey there, would you would you care to design your webinar slides 30 minutes before the webinar so that your spouse can QA them in 2 minutes as they're running out the door to work? Would you care for that? Everyone says no. And yet, over half the companies I've worked in, that's normal. It's like we are addicted to the last minute putting out fires lifestyle. What's going on there? Which again, it comes back to, why do we suck at delegating? What's the inner psychology there that leads so many talented business owners I've worked with and you've worked with, and a lot of the people listening, to not be great at delegating?
So one of the things that I come back to is, have you heard of the Colby A index?
Oh, that rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
Okay, so it's in a personality assessment, but it's about your work style.
Oh, yeah.
It gives you a few numbers to work from. And in my experience, creatives and business owners generally are quick starts. They have an idea and they start working on it right now. And sometimes they have 50 billion of them that they're working on right now. And I think that's why it's not necessarily that you suck at delegating or that the system is failing. It's that there's so much going on and starting too quickly. Where I come in, or people like me, is I'm not a quick start. Give me the details. How does this relate to your overall plan and our quarterly goals? Okay, then I slow things down and then I break them down. So it's not necessarily that people suck at delegating, except that they probably aren't interested in that skill set. They're interested in the idea generation, the excitement, and they need somebody else to come in and drive those ideas to completion. And that's where the delegation comes in.
I was just at the dump offloading a whole bunch of crap from this house I just moved out of. And I was also at the dump yesterday offloading a whole bunch of crap. And if you looked at, let's say, 100-pound adult, a small person, and you looked at offloading a ton of trash from a house you're moving out of, you wouldn't say, oh, well, you should be able to just go easily, go throw 100, go throw 1,000 or 2,000 pounds of stuff around, right? We're not so silly as to say that all body types are equally good at all things. And yet, I feel slightly spiritually offended when you accuse me of not being good at following through on things, which is how I'm going to characterize what you just said.
Right.
Even though I know it's true, that there's some things I'm better at. Obviously, we have a house cleaner sometimes, and, she's good at detailed, repeated work, which would drive me nuts.
Exactly.
The idea of being satisfied by completing a repeatable task that has a known outcome, boring. And for probably a lot of the folks listening to this, boring. So maybe we don't suck at delegation as much as we have let's try to make this positive. We've not sufficiently explored that which we're good at and that which really someone else could be good at. And there's this idea there that, well, if you aren't great at something and you try to do it anyways, you are depriving income and joy for someone who could really enjoy that. And like in my case, I like designing the new thing. And the finishing a project, there's the beginning, middle, and end of any project, right? And people tend to be better at one of those three areas. And if you put someone who's really good at finishing things and you say, okay, start this new thing, they're going to be couch locked. They're not going to know what to do. It's going to be a nightmare. And the same thing in reverse. And the same thing if you take someone who's really good at keeping things going, how they are currently going. Don't change it. There are people who love that, which it sounds like you're one of those people who loves to maintain things and make them run right, which drives me bonkers.
Yes. I tell people, don't ask me to come up with the ideas. I'm not a visionary. And I say that there's no shame about that. I'm not a visionary. But visionaries, the creatives in the world, the entrepreneurs that come up with these amazing solutions to problems, absolutely excite me because they have these ideas I never would have thought of. And I immediately, when I'm listening to them, think about, okay, how are we going to actually get that done? What are the pieces that are needed? That's where my brain works. So there's no sense in me wasting time on trying to envision a whole bunch of solutions to the world. I just need to work with creatives who are already doing that and help them actually get it implemented.
So the story here really is about knowing your strengths and then hiring for your weaknesses.
Yep, exactly.
So tell us a bit about, briefly, what it looks like for someone like me who says, wow, I don't love doing repeated maintenance tasks. What does it look like about hiring an online business manager to deal with that stuff so I don't have to.
One of the things I love to do is start with an exercise. I know everyone loves homework, but if you could document for an hour a day or a week, I prefer a week, but I mean, it depends on how resistant to this exercise you are. Everything that you do in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Then take a look at that list. What of all of those things, what of those are repeatable and measurable? And a bonus star if it's related directly to money. Now, once you've looked at that list and marked them down in whatever way you want to, take a look and measure it again on the things that you hate. And I use the word hate. I know people don't like it, but I don't want to do that thing. So you always avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the things that you do because you haven't ever really gotten somebody else to do and you've always done it, but you're not really that great at it. And probably somebody else would be good, but you've never actually assigned it, those tasks. And then the things that you just don't like. And it's okay. You're just not interested. It's okay if I don't do it. I'm not really interested. Take a look and measure it through that lens. That's your starting list of things to delegate.
What does that process look like once you have a list of, let's say, 5 things? You're like, these 5 things are draining my energy.
Yeah.
And you know that the whole process, and part of the problem of the process of delegating is, can I trust someone else to do the thing?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't get done, I've wasted money, I've wasted time, I'll just have to do it myself anyways. And this holds a lot of entrepreneurs back, including me, from delegating things that we ought to, because we've delegated things in the past and they didn't get done right, or they were delayed. And then it's just easier just to do it myself.
Exactly. And one of the reasons that I think stops us from delegating is we overcomplicate the process. Delegating to a team member any task doesn't have to be this big onerous thing that you're taking on to make the perfect SOP or operating procedure. You don't have to have it all figured out before you start. What you simply need to do, those first 5 tasks, for example, the next time you do it, record yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's Loom, if you like to screen record yourself so you don't want to write it down, or put it into a document somewhere and write down the steps, or pen and paper. It doesn't matter. Just do the thing and document as you go. Then you take that and you give it to the person on your team. And if you don't have that person on your team, your next step is hiring that person and giving that to them. They will turn it in, and then you ask them, I need this to be an SOP.
How can you know if that person is the right person? That there's a bazillion people on Upwork who say, I'm great at, and they'll say anything. And yes, there's a rating system on Upwork, so there's some protection there,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes so long to train somebody. And then that's one of the big resistance points to delegating is it's so expensive to find the right person, and you might be wrong. That even if you have the task perfectly encapsulated because you were so amazing, you hand it to someone like, and then they screwed it up. Crap, now I'm a month behind and I've lost a bunch of money. How do you find the right person?
So if you're new to delegating and you're new to having a team, you're looking for that person, start with something that isn't going to cripple your business. Start with a tester project. And I don't mean that it doesn't have to be completed, but start small. Start with those first 5 things. One I love to start a new VA with, for example, is Inbox Zero.
Mm-hmm.
I will have the VA go into the business, take that SOP, and work for 2 or 3 days on completing Inbox Zero, whatever the process that I've assigned them is.
Mm-hmm.
When they're done that, it's measurable. Did we reach Inbox Zero, and were things assigned the way they were? Was it done on time? Were they responsive? That type of thing. You don't have to hire somebody for a task or in your business forever. You can hire them for a task, see how it goes, and then see where they fit into the rest of the business. But it really comes into onboarding team members. What is your process? For me, I start with, what is the role that I'm trying to fill? What are the tasks that are related to that role? And what are the measurable outcomes?
I like your example because it's so short that it means you get quick feedback. And it can be really frustrating to have a project where you put a month into it and this isn't working out. But if it's only 3-day project, well, it's obvious. And it's also obvious for the person you're bringing on.
Absolutely. And you could have a few tasks as an onboarding task for a VA or a team member and start just with a really small project. If it works out, then you can talk about a longer term commitment, bigger number of hours. I mean, as an OBM, I never make an agreement with a client that's over 90 days because I'm a commitment phobe.
And it's a culture thing that sometimes the culture, it feels good beforehand, but then you discover after working together for a while. I also prefer the 3-month commitment because by then you find out, do I really jive with this person?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you don't. Sometimes just the personalities are different.
Absolutely. And you might think you need X, and you actually, after working together with somebody, realize, oh, I actually need Y.
Yeah.
It's okay to hire the wrong person and then move on.
Right. Where can someone go to connect with you more, Crystal, about your thoughts on how to get better at delegation and how to move forward if they want to go bring more people on their team to go help them delegate?
I love talking about teams and online business and systems and operations and all that stuff. I'm actually the systems witch. You can find me at thesystemswitch.com. I have a few different blog posts and articles on how to do some of this stuff. And if you just want to skip all that and just have a conversation, I've got a big button to have a 30-minute free call with me anytime, and I can direct you from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.